Good evening and welcome to State of Scottish Football. I'm David Smith. We do have a David Tint tonight, however, we are waiting for the paperwork to go through basically. But I'm not alone. On my left hand side, we are joined by the one and only Dr. Grant Campbell. Grant, how are we this evening?
I'm very well. Thanks very much for the invite, David. It's great to be on once again with yourself on this Thursday evening. Weather's not great here, but hopefully we'll have a very bright show for everybody tonight.
Of course, you might have also noticed the use of Newcastle United in their takeover. And we're just waiting the takeover confirmation now regarding. Sorry, apologies. I'm listening to the headphones there, so apologies for that. As I said, we're waiting for the takeover regarding putting somebody in and once we're ready to go, we can get him on. Grant, first and foremost, we need to touch upon Bonnie Rose. They picked up a massive win last night in the Old League.
Yeah, 13-0. Quite extraordinary, that result. I mean, our good friend and colleague of the show, Sean McGill, would have been absolutely delighted about that, and a real boost for the Lowland League chances of qualifying to try and win the title. I mean, it's a phenomenal accomplishment. Scoring 13 goals at any level is just fantastic. It's not great conceding 13 goals on the flip side, but you can only beat who's in front of you, and fair play to Bonnie Wright. That's a superb result, a stonking result, you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as you might notice, I'm getting bad echoes right now. I'll try to continue. So, Highland League, there was a 10-goal feast on Spain last night. Strasbourg 7 for William 3.
Some extraordinary results just in general in the Highland League last night. I mean, you had that 10 goals in the Strasbourg game, as you mentioned there. But, I mean, what an extraordinary win as well for Inverurie Locos, beating Brecon City, and Brecon falling further behind Fraserburgh at the top of the table, which is an absolutely astonishing start to the season in the Highland League. There's some really good games so far this season, and I think it was over 40 goals last night. Quite astonishing.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to go off for a couple of minutes. I'm going to let Glenn Collins speak about the world of Scottish football because of my bad echo, and then I'll be back on in a minute, hopefully.
No worries, David. Well, it's great to be joined to my right, a debutant for this episode of the State of Scottish Football, the one and only Blue Toon himself, Mr. Colin Byers. Colin, it's great to see you again.
Thanks very much for having me. Yeah.
It's great to have you on. I mean, what an extraordinary week it's been for your home club, Peterhead. Jim McAnally, 10 years in management. Quite an astonishing accomplishment.
It is. I don't think we should really downplay too much either. I think this achievement in this kind of day and age is quite extraordinary. To have somebody there for 10 years is unthinkable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fantastic to see. I mean, you've got to say Peterhead have had some really good periods at their time at the club. Jim McAnally's come in. They had a relegation. They've had a championship win. It's been a really good roller coaster ride, but a really great one as well, I'm sure, as a fan to follow.
Yeah, 2 championships, obviously. As you said, the one relegation. But throughout the 10 years, it's been more positive than negative, shall we say.
Yeah, a great club. Oh, my host doesn't mute my mic. Sorry about that. It's fantastic to see Peterhead going really well, and a great win at the weekend, a 5-0 win against Dumbarton. I mean, you must have been absolutely chuffed about that as well.
Yeah, nobody saw that one coming. Neither did we. 5 goals. Someone else against the team who have actually been slightly the table had they won. So it was a really good performance. Win played a big part. I think the Dumbarton fans would have said that it's a typical day of Peterhead.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to see that David has rejoined us. David, we're just talking about Peterhead. Fantastic to see that.
Can you hear me properly, yeah?
Yeah, we can, but there's a lot of speaking going on. Is this better?
Am I okay?
I could hear you. Paul says it's much better. Yeah, no, it was. David, we're obviously rejoined. We're having a bit of technical difficulties on the show tonight. 5.5 minutes in, it's not been a great start, but we were just talking to Colin there, David, about Peterhead. A really great start to what the season for them again, and Jim McInally, 10 years in management, a phenomenal accomplishment.
A phenomenal achievement from Jim McInally, because I mean, for a manager being in the game for 10 years, just speaks volumes about the loyalty, but also about how much is involved with regards to running a club. Because I mean, a lot of the management side of things now, you're normally in a job for no more than 5 years. So for Jim McInally to be in the post for 10 years just speaks volumes about the job he's doing at Peterhead. But also the fact that he's been there for such a long time, because the thing for me is, he's been at other jobs such as Morton and East Stirlingshire, where he's not exactly lasted. He's lasted at a sustained period of time, but he's not exactly lasted as long as he has at Peterhead. So it just goes to show you the job he's doing at Balmore, but also the setbacks he's had in order to progress moving forward. Because I mean, he's had, I might recall, you can maybe correct me here, but I think he's had 2 relegations at Peterhead, and any time he's been relegated, he's always responded in the correct manner. I mean, he got relegated 1 year and went and won the league the following year, go back at League One, which just speaks volumes about the job that's happening at this precise moment in time. But I mean, Peterhead Football Club are going strength to strength with Jim, and there's a lot to continue, and there's a lot of good work going on at that club, not just through Jim, but also through off the park as well.
I think a lot of it comes down to loyalty, and it's not just loyalty between Jim and the club, but it's the chairman sticking by Jim through the sort of bad times as well. Roger would always say that just because you go through a bad spell doesn't make you a bad manager, and that's exactly what we've kind of seen from Jim. There's a couple of occasions where he's probably might have chucked it in or walked away, but he's decided he's going to stick around, and what we're seeing is a long-term plan as well. And what a lot of people don't see is the stuff he does behind the scenes as well. The community stuff. He's involved heavily with that. Every year that the club runs a summer camp for the kids during the school holidays, during the summer holidays, and he's up every day for that during the summer. Considering where he stays, and he drives up and down every day. Davy Nichols is the same. We should mention him as well, because he's obviously been there for 10 years as well. And sometimes I think that gets kind of forgot a bit, lost in the mix as well. But he's travelling up for Glasgow every second weekend to be there. And as I mentioned earlier on, the loyalty, the loyalty has been being rewarded with the fact that he's now won those 2 titles, and as I said, the long-term plan is obviously to see the progress continue.
Absolutely. And by the way, I'm gonna pounce on an opportunity here that I very much got wrong on Tuesday night. On Tuesday night show, I mentioned etive. It's etive. Right, etive. So, an opportunity to put 1 or 2 things right here. And I'm delighted to say that Dr. Grant Campbell is back with us. Apologies for the echoes. Obviously, we've got high standards here at the State of Scottish Football, and apologies for those echoes. It was that bad. I didn't even know there was an echo cancellation option on my laptop. I had to put that on just for good measure. But Grant, great to see you back again.
Yeah, I've switched to the phone again. More problems at my end. I don't know what is going on, but hopefully I'm back, and I hope I'm sounding a lot better this time.
You are indeed, my friend. So we'll go back to Peterhead in a minute. We were touching the High League. A lot of big games last night, and Colin, you could come in this as well. Fezbear 6 points clear out the top. Just fantastic from Matt Cowie's side.
You want me to praise Fezbear? Is that what you want me to do?
Go on.
No, they've done well, and to be honest with you, I can see them being in the Scottish League in maybe 5 years' time, if not before that. They're doing really well. I think a lot of people would have expected Brecon to bounce back, but I just had a kind of sneaking suspicion that they were going to struggle or find it a lot more difficult than they would make it out to be. Fraserburgh's a good squad, a lot of experience, a lot of Highland League experience. They know how to win games. They know how to get through difficult ties. I can see them being promoted. Maybe not this season, but certainly within the next sort of 5 years.
Absolutely. Grant and Colin, sorry, you're very old school compared to me, and I don't mean that in a bad way. But Echo, a great song by the Green Children. Can you maybe elaborate what that is? Do I maybe have to go into YouTube? Is it a good song? Is what I'm trying to say.
Who's this to me or to Colin? Because I don't know.
Either is.
I have no clue.
Not a clue.
Just because Kenny Whitson's here saying Echo, a great song by the Green Children. And we've got Terence from Pat saying, I blame the Israelis for these audio issues.
Well, I was going to blame Newcastle and the Saudi Arabians coming in with all those monies to replace Mike Ashley, but there we go.
Anyway, before these Echo issues topped in, I was going to... obviously, we were waiting a takeover clarification, but this takeover clarification is very much went through now. We've obviously got the one and only Mr. Colin Byers from the Blue Tune podcast. So, Colin, you wrote a very poignant piece today on the Over the Bar about Jim McInally's job, but also you mentioned Davy Nichols as well, and what a great duo they've been for Peterhead.
Yeah, as I said in the piece, I think we shouldn't downplay it too much. I know Jim will. Jim very much doesn't like the attention on him. He much prefers the attention to be on his players, but we should be bigging this up as much as we can. Same as what the club has as well. Put a post this morning about it. So to have that kind of longevity is quite phenomenal. I mean, to put it into perspective, if the Peterhead's been in the league for 21 years, he's been manager for 10. It's almost half the time that he's been there. It's quite a phenomenal achievement, and it's quite a consistent. He has consistency throughout that time as well. I think he's got like a 40% win record as well. Which again, I mean, people will say, "Oh well, it's just Peterhead. It's League One, it's League Two," but you still have to win those games. And he knows what he's doing. He knows the game. Still quite old school, I think, in the way he does things, but there's nothing wrong with that. And the partnership that they've got, himself and Davey, they're very much good cop, bad cop. We've obviously had the pleasure of doing the match commentary for them for the last sort of year and a bit, especially last season when there was no fans. You could certainly see the two of them working hard, and it's Davey is the driving factor, but Jim is more the kind of man manager. And the tacticians, so they work well together. They've got a good combination.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
what to come on to you there, Colin? I mean, just having a look at the league table here, Peterhead are 9th at the moment, but it's such a competitive League One, isn't it? This season, you got Queens Park gone full time. Cove have been in the league a couple of seasons, have been very competitive. Is this Jim McInally's toughest test at Peterhead? I think.
I think this is the toughest league anybody's had, no matter where you're at. If you look at the results, there's only 4 or 5 points between 8th and 2nd, I think it is. It's very tight. It is really tight. And we got a big thumping by East Fife, who have only won one game. I think this season that was against Peterhead. Had we won that, we'd have been sitting obviously 7th or 8th. So it just shows you how much on a knife edge it really is. Getting on a run of 2 or 3 games will shoot you up that league, but it'll be really, really difficult for anybody to put a run on. And you can see by the results are, how Falkirk are struggling this season. Cove maybe haven't set the header alight either. Queen's Park are quietly going about it. They are sitting top, but again, I don't think people are thinking they're as far ahead as what we maybe expected to be.
Colin, do you think Falkirk's a sleeping giant just now?
Well, I thought that at the start of this season, I thought when Paul Sheeran came in, I thought they would have done a lot better. I think he's brought in players that he knows, i.e. a lot of the young guys from Aberdeen and things like that. It's a really big season for them. I think after 3 seasons, they may just kind of almost stagnate slightly. So if they don't get out this season, I think they'll start to really struggle. If you look at somebody like Airdrie, who they've been in there for a number of years now and just almost seem to be sort of ticking over each season without really pushing for promotion, and that's where if Falkirk are at. I think if they slip even further, there's that kind of fear that they might just be a League One side for a few years before they can get promoted again.
Absolutely.
I mean, Queen's Park have been the surprise. Well, they've obviously come up from League Two. They've looked really impressive, have they, Colin? I mean, they're unbeaten in the first 9 games. I mean, are they the team to beat, do you think?
I think they are, and I think again, if you are not an observer of sort of Championship, League One or League Two, I think you would have gone, they've gone promoted and they're up at the top, and might not have expected it. But I think with the backing that they've got and the players that they've brought in, even the players that they had last season and pretty much run away with League Two, it's not a surprise. It's maybe a surprise that they're not further ahead, as I said. It was just a couple of weeks ago when we went down there and we were actually 2-1 up, surprisingly enough, and just failed to kind of hold on and lost it 3-2 in the end. But again, I think they've maybe surprised themselves just by how tight this league is. Whether or not they can last out and win it, I don't know. I certainly think that Cove will be there, and I think given another transfer window, I think Paul Sheeran will get Falkirk rolling again.
Absolutely. Grant, we're going to go back to Jim McInally here. When you look at Jim McInally's 10 years at Peterhead, would you arguably say that the victory over Clyde to win the League Two title, the Challenge Cup final against Rangers at Hampden, and the final day victory against Queen's Park again to win the League Two again, were his 3 main highlights in his 10 years at Peterhead?
I think those ones have to be in there. I mean, I personally thought their win at Dundee United, I think, in the League Cup.
Oh, I'm
a couple
sorry.
of seasons ago, the 1-0 was a really great achievement. And I know they came mightily close, if I'm right, Colin, to coming out that group. Did you guys not get, unfortunately, the wrong side of the score against St Johnstone in the last game in the group, if I'm correct?
Yeah, it came down to the St Johnstone game. We had to draw, I think it was. St Johnstone, obviously, Premier League team, were far superior and obviously went on to win it. But it was, it's a couple of occasions in the group stages that we've been close. I think one year, we got 9 points and still didn't qualify on goal difference. So it's a tough way to get. It's a tough way to get knocked out.
A couple of good matches against Hearts, if I remember correctly, as well. I think one of the earlier rounds as well up at Balmoor. Balmoor, is a great club, a great atmosphere at the stadium. And obviously, when Rangers dropped down into the leagues, and obviously that first game was Peterhead against Rangers. That was an extraordinary moment for the club. And I think you guys got it was too.
We were conned out of a win, I should say. right at the end, we've got
a lot of support on here for that, I think.
a last minute corner. Rangers equalised and got it as a 2-2. But later on that season as well, when you're mentioning good results, we went to Ibrox and won as well. So not many teams that season could have said that as well. So he's provided a few big results.
You on about this game? Rangers won, Peterhead too.
That's the one. Yep.
That's the one. Yeah.
I would say that the league was done and dusted by then, but we still beat them. So
exactly. You've got to take every small positive. That's for sure, and that's the case. You've obviously overseen some great players at Peterhead over Jim McInally's time at the club. Any standouts for you?
There's obviously one, Rory McAllister. I think he gets he kind of goes hand in hand with the Peterhead's history. Certainly in the 20 years that they've been in the league, he's certainly a big part of that. His goal records, appearances, and things like that, will stand him in good stead. He'll still go down as a Blue Toon legend, even though he's obviously playing for a rival club up the road now, or down the road now, I should say, in Cove. But funnily enough, it was Rory McAllister that scored the first goal under in the Jim McInally reign, so he's got that kind of history as well. But there's been so many. I mean, Colin McDonald's one as well, Stephen Noble, guys like that Graham Sharp, guys that have been there for long periods of time, where quite often these players were coming in and going, and the door was just being revolved so much. But Jim can bring them in and keep them for 5, 6, 7 years.
Absolutely. Looking at the way forward now, Colin. Do you see Jim McInally being at Balmuir for the long term still? And also alongside that, do you look at Jim McInally and go, is there a potential position upstairs when he does hang up the manager's jacket?
I think there is. I think he's 56, 57 now, so he's still a relatively young man in terms of working life. But certainly, if he was to be there for another 5 years, 6 years, and then decide to hang up the jacket, as you say, then that I would certainly think there'll be a position for him somewhere on the board, or certainly in a position. I don't think a director of football in League One's probably going to work, but certainly oversee some kind of transition period. I think it's safe to say he's not going to get sacked anytime soon. He's not going to walk away anytime soon either. So I think for the short period of time, anyway, I think we've got him for a long time, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be thinking any other way.
You've took me on perfectly there, Colin, and that's my next question, Granty. Director of football. I know Cove Rangers have one, and I know Elgin City are looking into one. Do you think director of football works beneath the championship level?
I think it's very difficult. I think it's all dependent on the club, to be honest. It depends on, the history of the club and how well it's managed from top to bottom in the first place. It's all about, I think, community spirit as well. Because a football club isn't just about a match day on a Saturday. It's about Monday to Friday 9 to 5, I should say, and of course during the match days as well. So it is a big commitment, and we obviously see it at big clubs. But if teams want to progress and they want to move up the table, then maybe that is the model to go for. But to be honest with you, I do think it's dependent on finances, and I think it's all down to a structure of a certain club. Some clubs just simply don't have the resources to go that route.
Absolutely. And then, with regards to Peterhead, you touched upon it there, Colin. You've been doing all the commentary in the last year. How's that been for you? First and foremost, both with no fans, but also there's a stability about that club because Jim's been there for so long.
I think doing the commentary has obviously been it's been quite a pleasure. It's been quite it's been a unique experience for us. You're trying to watch a game but not be overly biased, towards your team, which can be difficult at times. Especially during the time when there was no fans. Obviously, we were quite privileged to get in and be asked by the club to do it. So we didn't take it for granted too much. And even now with the fans as well, it's a different experience because what we've been doing this year is we've been bringing in some former players, ex-players, players bringing them in. Even some of the current squad as well have jumped onto co-commentary as well, and it just gives a different insight because they can pick up things that as ex-pros or current pros that we just didn't see, and it gives us a better insight to it as well. And I think it just gives the viewers that are watching it as well a better experience for their money.
Do you still run the service?
Sorry, David. Speaking of current pros, Colin, I mean, you've got Simon Ferry, who's obviously still at the club. Very excellent Open Goal podcast. Obviously, was live in Glasgow last weekend. What is Si like at Peterhead, and just how much of a positive vibe does he give at the Bluetooth?
Was Open Goal live on Sunday, and nobody never really mentioned it. I didn't say anything about it. No, Si is exactly what you get. What you see is what you get with him. He just constantly talks all the time during the games. You will see him, and mostly it's trying to be positive, but he's just constantly at his own players, the referees, surprisingly enough. But that's to do with his coaching as well, because obviously he's a coach as well as playing. He's a player coach now at Peterhead. But again, much like Jim, he does a lot in the background as well, which a lot of people don't know. In terms of the community kind of stuff as well, and he's very, very positive about Peterhead. I think long term as well, he's certainly aiming to become a manager. Whether or not that's going to be at Peterhead first of all, or he's going to be somewhere else. But I think if you look at the players that Jim has had, ex players who've gone on to management, I think somebody like David McCracken that most recently he's allowed them to be a coach at Peterhead and then to go off and manage elsewhere. And I think Simon Ferry is exactly the same. I think at some point he'll obviously hang up the boots as well. Still only 33, I think he is. So again, still fairly young. But I think he's, whether or not he's going to be lined up to be a replacement at some point, I don't know. But he's certainly, that's his aim. He wants to be a manager at some point. And I think what people kind of tend to forget is that this open goal thing is on the go at the moment. But I think he's smart enough to realise that that's not going to last forever. He's doing his coaching badges. He's doing all that kind of thing. So he knows where he wants to be in the next sort of 5-10 years and know what he wants to achieve.
In terms of Simon Ferry, he's obviously, as you alluded to there, got the balance, but also he's got the capabilities to be the manager in the long term. But also, with all due respect, Kelty have got more resources than Peterhead just now, and the fact that he's turning down a position to become Kevin Thompson's number 2 just speaks volumes of how much he's adored at Peterhead.
Yeah, I think that one, it's obviously come out of the blue for us, which was a bit of a surprise. The one thing perhaps maybe that played it into our favour was the fact that Kevin Thompson had joined after Simon Ferry had signed his contract. Whereas I think maybe that would have made it a little bit more difficult. But having said that, he's got the commitment. He's there, hopefully for the long term. I mean, if you speak to somebody like Russell McLean, he specifically came back to Peterhead because of Simon's training regimes and his training ideas. You know, you're not going to get that anywhere else. So for him to move from Montrose to Peterhead specifically because Simon was one of the coaches and likes his coaching methods, tells you everything you need to know about where the club are aiming to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Keep your comments in. Plenty of comments coming in. Much appreciated. We're going to start in Scotland. We're going to give you a wee treat tonight, by the way. We're going to continue till 7:05 tonight, just because of our catastrophic errors this evening, which I should say catastrophic mistakes, begging your pardon. But Grant, I'm going to come up to you for the sixth question by Tennant's Pat saying Clarke has a lot to prove as Scotland manager. Your European qualification was a limp over the line through the back door. Do you agree with that?
I'm sort of on the fence for this. I think Steve Clarke had a tough start. You know, you look back to the games he had right at the very beginning. You had, I think it was Russia, home and away, and then you have, you know, 2 other tough games in the group as well. You know, he had an extremely tough start. And then, you know, coming into the job, you know, he was kind of left with a bit of a mess, really, after Alex McLeish had left. So he was really picking up the pieces and trying to give a lot of new guys opportunities, try and give, you know, a system that would work. So I think he had to be given a little bit of slack to get things sorted out. I thought we deserved to get to the Euros. I think we put in a really good performance in the Nations League to get to that playoff. We won that semi-final against Israel. Okay, we were slightly fortunate to get to a penalty shootout to win that game, but nevertheless we won it. And then the Serbia game, up until the 90th minute, I thought we were the better team in Belgrade. And okay, we lost the goal from the corner, and then, you know, it could have been anybody's after that. But I thought we got there on merit. You know, in this qualification campaign, it's been not too bad. We're in a good position at the moment. We had a very tough start. You know, Denmark are clearly the team to beat in the group. We got the result in Austria last time out. We are now in the box seat to finish second in this group. I say to people that have a bit of a problem with Steve Clarke, one, why is your problem with that? Is he too nervous? For me, I'd rather see a man setting up a team that's tough to beat and gets results that way. But on the flip side, if you want Steve Clarke to leave, who are you getting to bring in? And also, you're seeing what's happening at Aberdeen. You know, Stephen Glass has come in. Derry McInnes has done a superb job at Aberdeen over the years, consistently got them into the top 6, consistently got them into Europe. And then obviously Stephen Glass has come in, a whole new project, and it's not quite worked out. So I say to a lot of people that aren't happy with the Steve Clarke situation, be careful what you wish for is probably the catchline phrase here, but just think about where does Scotland want to go? Because I feel we are progressive. We're in a great chance to finish second in this group. If we get this result against Israel on Saturday, we're in the pound seats. Okay, it's not job done, but we give ourselves a great chance. So I think the comment there about Clarke is quite harsh in my opinion, but I can see why they say that.
I think if you're going to say a qualification through the back door, after having waited so long for a qualification, you're asking a bit much there. I think if you've got to sort of roll with the punches, as it were, and to get just to qualify, even if it was through the back door, it's a qualification. It's something that hasn't been done for a long time. Some folk haven't even seen it in their lifetime. So to say to get a qualification through the back door is a bit of a strange way to put it.
And I'd just like to clarify here, Grant, that my glass is half full already, just because of the tremendous patter and the shambles of echoes that we've put on in the opening half an hour. So you'll find that my glass is half full already. And it's actually funny because Scottish Jock here says, is there any chance that ACSOM could have a Ouija in the panel? I'm trying to be as Ouija as I possibly can here, but unfortunately my roots in terms of being a Portsoy lad, just to let you know, Clarke and ice cream in Portsoy, so that's where I'm from. So no Ouijas with us, unfortunately. We've got Call for Peter Hayden and Grant Fallon, so you're stuck with us Dorics tonight. But
the ice cream in Collins better.
But aye, Colin, how big a week is this for Steve Clarke Scotland, do you feel?
I think I kind of echo what I think Grant was saying there. I think if you get a result on Saturday, I think we're well on our way. I think Denmark's obviously the team to beat. I think they're gonna win it. So if you finish second, you give yourself a great chance. But I don't think the pressure's on him. I don't think the pressure should be on him. But I think you get the result on Saturday. We're certainly on the right track.
Absolutely, Grant. I touched upon it yesterday in the group chat. That there's going to be a break in November next year, irrespective of Scotland qualify or not. Does that, not that it puts pressure on the players by any stretch of imagination here, but do you look at it and go, right, let's try and give a bit more support here so we're not sitting on the sofas next November in the freezing cold going, oh, I wish it was Scotland.
Absolutely, it gives us all the incentive we should need to get the job done. I mean, we've seen it so many times, haven't we? Seen our neighbours and Wales and obviously Northern Ireland being at the Euros in the past, and the Republic of Ireland being at World Cups, and as you just said, us not being there, no Scotland, no party. It is so true. And I don't know about Colin or yourself, but I certainly don't want to be sitting watching these finals with Scotland not there. It just would be a bit of a dampener on the tournament, considering it's in Qatar anyway, which, let's be honest, isn't the most exotic of places. But maybe it is. It's not me anyway.
I think you've brought me perfectly onto my next question, and it's a question exclusively for yourself. You obviously do a lot of Northern Irish football coverage, Grant. Do you feel because of that it's kind of brought on the Northern Irish football in a way?
It has in some respects, although I do feel that Northern Ireland are going to be up against it to qualify for the World Cup anyway, because they were in a group with Italy, Switzerland are in their group as well. But you could see off the back of the Euros in 2016, Michael O'Neill did a great job there. You could see almost a mirror image in some respects of what Steve Clarke is doing Scotland in comparison to what Michael O'Neill is doing with Northern Ireland. He's getting the best out of the team. Obviously, Aaron Barraclough has come in. He's trying to sort of change things a little bit about, some of that class of 2016, if you like, are coming towards the end of their careers. You're losing the likes of Johnny Evans and Davis. So I can see comparisons there. And I think, the quality of the league football in Northern Ireland has definitely improved on that. You're seeing guys in that league that have got into the team in the past, people like Shane Lavery, who's, of course, moved on to Blackpool. Stuart Dallas, who, of course, has been the absolute clinic of the Northern Irish League, getting these gig at Leeds, was a Crusaders player for many years. You're just seeing the development of that league growing all the time. There's a lot more money invested in the league now. The quality of that league is improving, and I think Scottish football and Northern Irish football is very similar in some respects, and it's going to be tough for both nations to qualify, particularly for Northern Ireland. But Scotland, I think, are going in the right direction under Steve Clarke, and I think it's because they're utilising what Northern Ireland are doing a little bit more now. They're looking in the Scottish market. They're looking at the sort of younger talents in the leagues. They're utilising the under-21s as well and thinking, right, who's these guys that we're looking to build upon in areas where we may be weak at this point in time, but looking to build upon the future? Look at right back. Look at Nathan Patterson and the job he's been doing at Rangers. You've got Calvin Ramsey coming through. You know, but players like Billy Gilmore who have kind of really impressed over the last 18 months or so. This is what we need to continually be doing. Northern Ireland are trying to do that with their young players as well. So there is very similar avenues there.
Absolutely. Colin, when you look at the weekend coming up, Scott McKenna makes his 25th appearance for Scotland. I must say, if he plays against Israel. If he plays against Israel and the Faroes. And that's quite an achievement for a player so young, Colin.
Yeah, and it's quite an achievement for somebody who played for Aberdeen as well, because we kind of know the the policies of Scotland managers for not picking Aberdeen players. It's a great achievement for him for being so young, as you said. He's one of that kind of players that if he keeps himself fit, keeps himself going, I mean, he could easily hit 50 cups and be up there with some of the greats that have played for Scotland. What he's got is an advantage. He's a big lad. He's obviously, and he's left-footed as well. So a left-footed centre half is a dime a dozen these days as well. But he deserves it, and he's played well. Some people will kind of scoff at who he's playing for at the moment, but if he's playing well, then why not?
Absolutely, Grant. With regards to the weekend, am I right in saying you put up a team on Twitter and Instagram this afternoon? But
yes, I did.
Do you care to elaborate?
Yes, so I personally think, after much deliberation, and it was actually commented on by a friend of the show, Glenn Schroeder, fellow guest and presenter, that I got some tough information because I actually thought that Shea Adams was suspended, but I was told that he's only on one yellow card, not two. So there would only be the one change I would make from that Austria game, because obviously Grant Hanley is suspended for the game. So the only change I would make is to bring in Scott McTominay as that centre half. And McTominay is a big game player. He's very comfortable at bringing the ball out from the back. I thought Hendry was really impressive in Austria, so I wouldn't remove him out of the team. And then that keeps the balance on the left-hand side with Tierney and Robertson. And I think, as much as a lot of people on this chat and a lot of people in Scottish football generally don't particularly rate Stephen O'Donnell, you can't fail to deny he's got a big heart and he puts in a big shift when he puts on a Scottish shirt. I thought he was excellent in Austria. And if he could put in a similar performance for us on Saturday night, I think it'll be massive. So I would just make the one change, and it would be McTominay and for the suspended Hanley.
I think O'Donnell's one of that players that is maybe not blessed with a great amount of talent, but you just know you're going to get 100% commitment from him. Completely. You're going to get 100% effort from him, and that's really all you, as a Scotland fan, is all you can ask for.
Listen, I like Patterson as well. I don't know what your situation is with that, Colin, but I think Patterson, longer term, is probably one of the favourites to take that right back slot. But right here, right now, Steve Clarke likes to pick guys that fit a system, that give 100% to the cause, just are very optimistic, progressive, positive. And I think O'Donnell, he knows how to track back as well. We've not seen enough of Patterson yet for me to see how good he is defensively. We know he's really good going forward, as we saw in the Moldova game, but I'd love to know what you think on that.
No, I think Patterson's long term is certainly going to be our main right back, if not one or one of two. Why not have two guys competing for the same position? That can only be good. I mean, for a long time, the Scotland squads have been pretty much the same old. You know who the starting 11 was going to be. The depth wasn't there. Bertie Vogts was picking everybody and his granny at one point just to give them a Scotland Cup. But
picking the team on the bus.
What Steve Clarke has got now, he's, as you said, he's picked a system. He's picking players to play within that system. Patterson's obviously going to be one of those it's going to be much like McKenna, somebody who's got to be in the Scotland national team for a long time. But O'Donnell, again, he's another one. It deserves his caps and certainly deserves to be in the starting lineup.
Another I must say, a Celtic state of mind is Kevin Graham was on fire tonight. Another great question coming in from the big man said, I did an article at the X Euros, a lot of our top players are still under 30. That bodes well. Grant, that's excellent news in the long term.
Absolutely. I mean, we were talking about the defensive line there. I mean, you know, you look at the guys in the field. Billy Gilmore's very young. The fact he's went to Norwich, I think, is an interesting move for his development. Not sure it'll work out. Jury's still out for me on that. I don't know if Clarke wants to play him in the system or not. I'm not sure if he's getting as much games as we'd like to see him play. But you've got him. I think McGregor obviously getting the captaincy at Celtic, still relatively young, coming towards the peak of his career, you know, is very important as well. You've got John McGinn, who I think is reaching the peak of his powers. I think he's been Aston Villa's best player this season. I think he's been really dynamic, really positive. We really missed his influence, I felt, in Copenhagen. I thought he was the match winner, really, in Austria. I thought he was outstanding that night. And then at the top end of the pitch, you know, you've got someone like Lyndon Dykes, who's still developing all the time, hitting a really kind of hot streak at the moment for Queen's Park Rangers. And then not even mention the guys like Kevin Nisbet, who was trying to break into the team. You've got Shea Adams, who is still very young as well. Right, Christie's still finding his best form as well. So I do think there's a lot of positives for Scotland to take forward coming as a result of this. We've got some really good players. I just think sometimes we needed that rub of the green that we got in Austria. We needed that big away performance. We got it. Now we need to hammer that advantage after getting that result, because we put ourselves in a position. Let's try and finish the job through.
Absolutely. Is that, Colin, do you think it's a bit of momentum kicking on into the big week that Scotland have coming up?
Yeah, it's all about momentum. And I think if you get yourself in a run, if he's talking about the national team or even just at club level as well, once you get yourself in that winning kind of mentality and a winning run, it certainly bodes well for the next games. But I think this is obviously a big weekend, a big game on Saturday, and as I said before, I think if we could get any kind of result, we will be in the prime position for finishing second. Obviously,
Peterhead don't have a game at the weekend. You going down?
No, I have some family commitments. We're getting together this weekend, so taking the opportunity of no football, or certainly no domestic football. So we're getting together for the first time in a long time post lockdown.
Absolutely. Excellent. Just in terms of the next few games coming up, Colin, Grant touched on the system he would play. Would you echo what he's trying to say? Would you play the same system as they played in Austria?
No, I think if you're you stick with what's right. If it's not broke, you don't fix it, kind of thing. So, but we're not really blessed with too many attack-minded players or forward-minded players as well. So I think the unfortunate thing is that most of our better players are defenders or defensive-minded kind of players, you know, like McTominay, Tierney, and Robertson, etc. So, you know, I think he's found that system, and I think he's found positions for everybody. I.e., you know, Tierney playing in that left centre back kind of position, and it works well for everybody. So you know, just stick with it and keep going.
Absolutely. Grant, as a big Aberdeen fan, would you like to see, like Lewis, you're not exactly been, let's put it this way, you've not been Lewis Ferguson's biggest fan this season, but would you look at Lewis Ferguson and go, here's your opportunity perhaps if the possibility occurs?
I don't think personally the Israel game on Saturday is his chance, personally, because I think Clarke will be targeting that game to say, guys, let's get to 3 points. Let's put ourselves in the box seat for second place. You want to play your strongest team. I think Ferguson, to give Ferguson a bit of credit, you know, he's worked really hard to get himself into that position. You know, Clarke gave him some minutes in the games against Moldova, and I think he got out some game time in the game against the Danes, didn't they? And you know, I think the future is bright for Lewis Ferguson if he keeps working away. Potentially the Faroes might be an opportunity to see maybe a half hour from him, but you know, this game against Israel is pretty much a cup final for Scotland. You know, if we can win this game and put ourselves, 5 points clear of Israel or even further ahead, you know, that would be a real boost for the group, because, you know, it's going to be so important. It's actually 4 points, sorry, beg your pardon. So, you know, that would be massive. And I think you've got to play the guys that, you know, served us so well in Austria. You know, we've managed to get to this stage absolutely boosted by the fact that, touch wood, we haven't had any injuries or COVID situations so far, touch wood. Let's hope that remains the case going into this game on Saturday, because we need our strongest team possible to win against an Israel side who, by the way, we haven't a good record against the 90 minutes.
And Colin, are you hoping it's yes sir we can boogie come Tuesday night?
Oh, absolutely. We'll be dancing and boogieing all night if we could get the right results. Yeah, absolutely. Just touching on what Grant was saying about Lewis Ferguson, I think if you're going to try and fit him into your Scotland team, I think what you're going to see him in more friendlies or games like the Faroes, first of all, because the guys that's in there, as we said already, deserve to be in the starting lineups. That they've done well. So, I think Lewis is probably going to be a Scotland international, in time, in years to come. Whether or not he's ready for that step up, we don't know. Hence, what I'm saying, you should be seeing a bit more, some more friendlies first, games against the Faroes, etc., just to kind of see how he gets on, because it's a different level than playing at club level.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to make it a bit more fun again. Obviously, I came up with the guess, the starting 11 on Tuesday night. It brought so much fun. So I was being a little bit brutal to Angus McGregor, shall we say, on Tuesday evening, but I'm going to be a little bit more diplomatic to yourselves tonight, gents, and I'm going to get you to predict the team that drew 1-1 against Israel back in March. It was a 1-1 draw, and I'll already give you one clue by saying Ryan Fraser scored on that night in question. So, gents, take it away. Tell me what the team was that night in question. Just whoever starts.
David Marshall.
Marshall, yes.
Aye. Robertson, Tierney.
Correct.
Stephen Armstrong.
Hanley
started. Armstrong was on the bench.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Fraser must have started as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
he already gave us that one.
Yeah.
Lyndon Dykes.
He came on for Shea Adams.
Yeah.
So Shea Adams started then.
John
McTominay.
Fleck.
McTominay, yes. Fleck was on the bench.
But I'm picking all the guys that were on the bench.
If the game was pick who was on the bench, you'd be doing well.
Stephen O'Donnell.
Yes.
How many have we got left?
He's need to count, Paul, and it means we've been struggling here.
Three more.
Three more.
Liam Cooper.
No. Right, I'm going to give you the biggest clue you'll
Callum
ever get.
McGregor.
Yeah, and then the next one, I'm going to give you the biggest clue in your entirety. Meatball.
Oh, McGinn, of course.
Yep. And then the last one, I'll give you the biggest clue of the night. He plays in Belgium just now.
Oh, Jack Hendry.
Oh, Jack Hendry, yeah.
So that was the team. Marshall, Hendry, Hanley, Tierney, O'Donnell, McTominay, McGregor, Robertson, McGinn, Fraser and Adams. The bench that night was Dykes, Armstrong, Christie, Gordon, Craig Gordon of course, John Fleck, Declan Gallagher, Scott McKenna, Kevin Nisbet, McBurney, McLaughlin, Constein and McLean. Now,
to be fair, David, not too many adjustments there from the team that I've certainly predicted for this game on Saturday. I mean, it would only be, I think, Gordon instead of Marshall, and Dykes up front. That's not too many changes there from that team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, one thing I managed to get my hands on last night was an out of contract starting 11. Well, sorry, an out of contract list, right? So obviously I was in work this afternoon, and I delayed my response to Colin because obviously the Wi-Fi was atrocious in my office this afternoon. But I've got an out of contract list for this season. Sorry. So I'll run through it, right? So Aberdeen's got 11. Constein, Ryan Duncan, Jet, Matt Gallagher, Jack Gurr, Johnny Hayes, Ryan Hedges, Don McGeek, Neil McGinn, Funzo Ojo and Michael Roof. Celtic have 6. Afolabi, Debele, Karamoka that is, Ross Duhan, Wade Griffiths, Ewan Henderson and Ralston. Dundee's got 11, Dundee United's got 12, Hearts got 17, Hibs have got 13, Livingston have got 14, Motherwell have got 15, Rangers have got 11, Ross County have got 15, St Johnstone 12, and St Mirren 14. Guys, just before I get a conclusion, it probably says a lot about Celtic right now that they've only got 6 out of contract at the end of the season.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's been, a season of change at Celtic. Ange Postecoglou has brought in pretty much a whole new team and more, and there's definitely been quite a lot of changes in there. But yeah, and some interesting names. I mean, guys there that have obviously gone out on loan, like Lee Griffiths, and probably won't be kept on at Celtic after what has been happening in recent weeks. And then you've got other guys there like Haramoko Dembele, you mentioned there. Is he the sort of guy that could be given an opportunity to test himself? We've not really seen him in Scottish football, which almost feels like a big disappointment to many people.
I'm surprised we haven't seen more of him, to be honest with you. I think he came across with such a big sort of reputation behind him, and I think he's probably been disappointed that he hasn't seen more game time. There's maybe reasons for it. We just obviously we don't know, but no, I think for us, I think as non-Celtic fans, I think we would have liked to see more of him.
So I've came up with my team. I don't know if you guys have had the time to create your teams, but I went for a 4-2-3-1. You probably won't see my list here, but I went for Craig Gordon in goals. I went for a defensive pairing of of Sean Rooney, Jamie McCart, John Suter, and Stephen Kingsley. I went for a midfield 2 of Stephen Davis and Ian Harkes. I went for a midfield 3 of Ryan Hedges on. I better get this right here. Ryan Hedges on the left. I went for Jimmy McGrath on the right, and I went for Scott Allen in the middle with Tony Watt up front. Another question that I'd pose to you guys is, and I was speaking to our good friend John Blaisdell about this today. It probably says a lot about this when you've got Wade Griffiths and Jason Cummings out of contract, and we're not even really discussing them, apart from obviously me mentioning their names just now.
Very much so, and I think I've got to say your 11 is far better than mine, and I haven't even picked mine. But what I will say is, Craig Gordon. How old is Craig Gordon? 37, 38 now. He's a very, very good keeper. I mean, out of contract in the summer, that's the sort of guy you think, could Celtic still be doing with someone like Craig Gordon ahead of Joe Hart, for example, at the moment? Seeing the job he's been doing, it's just absolutely phenomenal. But you mentioned those Dundee guys there, Griffiths and Cummings. Dundee really struggling for goals this season, been really struggling for results this season. It's a real concern for them, and they need to get up and running fairly quickly if they're going to survive in the top flight.
Right, come on, gents. What's your teams?
I'll defend to call until I pick mine.
Well, thanks very much. Just pick on the new guy already, is it?
I'm giving you fair game here.
Well, So as you said, I only got the list maybe half an hour ago, so I divulged it too much. But I think Craig Gordon, obviously the standout goalkeeper there. I think even at the age he's at, he's still going to be up there. I've picked out Effie Ambrose as well.
Okay.
I know that might surprise a few folk, but seeing what he did on Saturday, he's still doing relatively well. Cammy Ballantyne as well, another young guy I've picked at St Johnstone.
Is that the guy who's on the loan at Montrose?
Yes, I think he's back there as well.
I saw this.
He went back as well. I went for Hedges at Aberdeen as well. I know he's not a defender, but I've gone for him. I've picked out Kieran Freeman.
Peter Heath lad. Well,
yep. Kieran Freeman, who has just broken into the Dundee United lineup as well. I think you've probably seen the pictures of him in the Dundee derby, sort of throwing himself at at Lee. I think it was Lee Griffiths. I think it was just blocking the shot for him. And I picked up Chris Mockery as well. He was at Montrose last season as well. And again, young guys that I think have got bright futures as well. Whether or not they're going to be at Dundee United next season or not, I think if Dundee United build a team, I think they should be building round about them. So it's two younger guys that I've picked out. Craig Halkett, picked him out at Hearts as well. I see where teams are very different from already. But Scott Allen was one as well. I've seen his name there as well. And who else have I got? Murray Davidson. I really like Murray Davidson.
I've got Murray Davidson in my team.
I really like him, and I'm surprised that somebody like Aberdeen didn't try and get him at 5-6 years ago. The guy is just absolutely phenomenal. He's done such a great job at St Johnstone, and it's one of that kind of guys. He just sort of gets on with it with his job, just gets on with it playing. Nothing fancy, nothing flamboyant, but he's just so consistent. And I think, as I said, for a large period of time, I think somebody like Aberdeen would have really should have really tried to take him on in the years early on under McInnes, were maybe struggling for midfielders. I think Murray Davidson would have been the ideal candidate.
Just something that Kevin Graham, you are very much on fire here tonight, sir. Would you agree, before we go into Grant's team, guys, that Jimmy McGrath is this year's Ali McCann?
Yeah, I think he's been a very good player, McGrath, and I think, it was touted with the move to Hibs in the summer. It didn't work out for him. I think Jim Goodwin will be absolutely delighted to still have him in Paisley. I think he's a great player. I think he can, come to feet. I think he can use the front guys very well. I think there's lots of really good attacking players at the top of the pitch. He scores from dead balls. He takes good penalties as well. He's a very, very good, tidy all-round player.
Right, Doctor, on your way.
Right, I really struggled to pick this team, but I have also gone for Craig Gordon in goal. Because I think Craig Gordon, for me, has one good season left in him after this season. But I think, personally, he'll stay at Hearts. At the back, I've kind of gone for a bit of a mishmash four here. I've gone Ralston, because I think there's more to come from Tony Ralston. I think there's a club here for Ralston. If it's not at Celtic, in the Scottish League, I think he would do a job somewhere. I still think a fit Andy Considine does a job. Whether it is at Aberdeen, I don't know, but I think he does a job. He could have that Mark Reynolds style effect at Dundee United. You just don't know what he could do there. I put Sean Rooney in my team, because I think Sean Rooney, for me, it would be a grave shame if he left the Scottish League, because St Johnstone, are very grateful to have him in this team. I think he's absolutely fantastic to have in that area of the pitch. So I've gone with a tentative 3 at the back at the moment, but I'm not quite sure whether I'll change that just for the moment. My midfield, I picked Murray Davidson, as Colin has just alluded to there. I think Murray Davidson is just a really good player. I've also picked McGrath. I think we should be giving Dembele a chance. And I've also got Leandro Fuchs at Dundee United, who I think has been really, really good.
He was initially going to be mine. Fuchs was initially going to be mine.
I picked him instead of Hearts, and I went with Cummings and Watt as my front two, because I still think Jason Cummings is due for a goal. The only thing I'm swithering about is to whether to pick Callum Booth at St Johnstone as the left back or Stephen Kingsley. I think I might go for Kingsley because he's got that dead ball prowess in his game, although I think Callum Booth is maybe a better all-round defender. One thing I would say, though, gentlemen, is I forgot that Rangers have also got Connor Goldson out of contract at the end of the season. So I'm going to switch Goldson in for Considine at central defence. So there you go.
Do you think there's a possibility, Grant, and you've touched on it perfectly there, do you think there's a possibility he might go to Millwall in January?
Well, I think Rangers fans have got to be very careful of some of their prized assets leaving in January, because I think, obviously not qualifying for the Champions League, they're going to be under pressure to qualify out of the Europa League group after a very tough start. If they don't qualify in Europe, I think Rangers are going to have to sell some big players. Goldson might be one of them at the back. You look at people like Morelos, there's a lot of unrest with him there. There's a lot of documented evidence that he might move on. There's a lot of other players that potentially could go. Ryan Kent could go. There's lots of talk about that in the summer. Goldson is one of many who could go. So take that where you want to butter it.
Andy Considine, brilliantly put there, Grant. You can tell that Aberdeen's missing a player of his calibre just now.
Absolutely, and I said this to a few people at the time. I think Stephen Glass is really missing his leadership at the back. I'm not the biggest Andy Considine supporter in the world. I think he's been a great servant for the club. I think he's done a lot of great stuff for the club. I still feel at times that in big matches, sometimes he lets himself down, and he has done so in the past. But, one thing you can't deny about Considine is he's always been a big mainstay of the club. And, I feel that if Stephen Glass wanted to try and change something different, maybe go to a 3 at the back with Considine, Bates and Gallagher in there, that might be something to try and change in there. But I just feel that just for something a little bit different, to try something different, the system for me is not working with McCrory as a centre-back at the moment alongside David Bates or Declan Gallagher or Andy Considine. I don't think that experiment is working. So I think if Stephen Glass gets Andy Considine back from injury sooner rather than later, that might be worth a try. You never know. It might not work, but you've got to give it a chance.
Colin, you went for a more younger team, but I think some of the players that you've put in there, it's just I'm going to pinpoint this towards Peterhead here. I think it just shows the players that Peterhead have brought through. They've been farmed out by the Premiership clubs to Peterhead, but then Peterhead's gave them a very good grounding in order for them to go back to the clubs.
Yeah, I think a lot of clubs should be going down the avenue of loaning players to Championship, League 1, League 2. Depending where they think they're at in their development, but certainly for many years, Peterhead have had players coming on loan and then they've gone on to do really well. I mean, the guys who've got on loan this year, like Josh Mulligan, for example. I mean, that guy can play anywhere and plays so well in a variety of positions that he's going to be some player for Dundee when he goes back there. And again, somebody like Lyle Cameron, who's done really well as well, who was there last season as well, is back again this season. Is going to be a great wee player for Dundee or for whoever it is in the future. But just back to your list about the players, there's so many players that are out of contract at the end of this season.
That's just
the Premiership players that you've picked out.
We forgot about Benjamin Siegrist, who's a really good keeper, obviously coming back from injury for Dundee United. And I picked Craig Gordon.
Come on, there's so much goalkeepers available there.
Well, because quite frankly, Craig Gordon right now is the best keeper in Scottish football. That's my opinion. I think he's been outstanding for Hearts this season. Made big saves. He's been absolutely superb for Scotland as well. But Siegrist last season for Dundee United under Mickey Mellon, I thought was one of the most consistent keepers in the league. Probably second to Alan McGregor. In terms of consistency. Obviously Rangers were the class field last year, but as Colin alluded to there's so many players there. It depends on the style. I mean, Christian Deutsch is out of contract at Hibs. That's a guy who has got a renowned goal scoring success. You guys mentioned Tony Watt earlier on. Tony Watt's got a bit of a renaissance at Motherwell. It's funny. We all have different opinions, and I just mentioned about Dembele early on at Celtic. If he's out of contract and he's not getting games, I think someone in Scotland should take a chance on him because I'd like to see what he can offer to Scottish football.
Absolutely. Colin, with regards to Jim McInally, we'll go back in it just to finish things off here. He's already left a legacy. Can this legacy continue even longer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we touched on it earlier on about how long he's going to be there. I mean, the absolute pinnacle would be a promotion to the Championship. Whether or not that happens under the current regime, I don't know. Certainly sticking in League One for 3 seasons, he's done really well. I mean, the budget is probably the smallest in that league. With maybe 1 or 2 clubs, but he's done really well, and I don't think, even dare I say, if we were to get relegated again before he leaves, I don't think that would diminish his reputation or his legacy at any time. But certainly he's one of those guys who will go down as a Peterhead legend.
Absolutely. Right, I told you we were going to stay until 7:05. It's 7:05 now, so that's all. Well, just one more question. And Grant, on your Benjamin Siegrist comment, I'll argue that by saying Xander Clarke. There you go.
Okay, I'll give you that. I think they're both very good keepers. But yeah, they're not too bad.
Absolutely. Right, that's 7:06. It's time for our teas. It's time for us to go watch Belgium Italy tonight, isn't it? No, Belgium France.
Belgium France.
So, thanks very much for tuning in again. Tomorrow night we've got a really big show for you. We're going to have a quiz with our Ouija host, Mr. Colin Watt. Myself, David Smith, and also Dr. Grant Campbell will be in attendance. Colin, you joining us?
I think I will be, yes.
Yep. Promises to be an exciting evening, and until then, cheerio.